do, I call this meeting of the Communications Subcommittee to order. All citizens are welcome to attend public meetings in person, but to view the live meeting remotely, citizens are encouraged to watch the live stream on the Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel or the live broadcast on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. To listen to the meeting remotely, citizens may call in using the number 1-929-205-6099. And to participate in the meeting remotely, citizens may join a Zoom webinar using the number 811-0022-1126. Meetings are recorded and archived by Franklin TV on the Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel and shown on repeat on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. All right, we have a fairly short agenda today. So the first thing on the agenda is debrief on town councilor attendance and presence at early summer 2026 community events. Liz, are you have the information on that, or are you just, like, this agenda, are you just having us talk about, or Jamie, are you?
We had a lot of events, part of your work plan. I think it was showing up at more events. I think we all went through a bunch of stuff and just thought, how did they go?
Okay. I wasn't sure if this was like, hey, let's talk about how many counselors went, or like the what events were not attended, or.
Well, you guys went to them, so you would know, but I just thought, you know, I don't know, it's part of the work plan, and I think there was a lot of stuff, and hopefully everybody had a good time. I think I bumped into a couple of you here or there, but you know, I think presence is a big part of communication, and I know there's a strawberry stroll booth. I had to miss the strawberry stroll, but I thought there was a lot going on, and maybe it was just a good. Did it work out for everybody? Do you feel like things were well attended?
Yeah, well, I'll start. So I was at a strawberry stroll. I attended the booth for the first hour. I didn't see not a ton of people came to talk to us. We did have, I think there was always someone at the booth, maybe not like, you know, huge crowds, at least for the first hour, but I was there very early, so I don't know how active it was after that, but the whole strawberry stroll seemed very, very active, lots of people there, very well attended. How about you guys? You were there.
I was there. You left. When you left, I showed up, and there were people that stopped, but it wasn't like overpowering or anything like that. But I think it was good. I mean, the whole strawberry stroll was very active. I think just having us there, even if no one was coming up, it was like a good look, because it showed if they wanted to, they could. I was at the kickball game. That was good. That turned out well. I'm trying to think, what else did I go to?
Porch Fest.
Yeah.
No, I did not do Porch Fest. I was too tired.
Any of the watch parties?
Nope, didn't do
I know
those.
Carolyn was it.
I didn't do that. That one, I was
Yep.
like, no, I'll watch from my house. Thank you very much. That's too crowded. I can't do that. But I will be I'm going to start going to the farmers markets. I'll be doing that. I'm trying to think what else went on. So many things, but like
We had Pride. There were 2 Pride events. There was the flag, then there was the celebration on the Common. 4th of July Coalition. I don't, you know, just 4th of July event.
No, I didn't get to the Pride ones. I was actually having a birthday party for my granddaughter, so that took precedence. But that's, I think, the kickball. I did the strawberry stroll. I think, really, honestly, I was at the 4th of July carnival several days, walking around. I was there when Jeff presented.
Oh, yeah.
That, I know everything's blending together, so it's like.
There's even a lot of events.
Just wanted to remind everybody how much fun they all had. Like,
They
this
are,
is
but they're all like, everything's blending together. It was the first 4th of July carnival that didn't rain in decades.
Right.
Too bad, because it really would have been nice.
It was hot.
You would have been cool,
It
yeah.
was so
99
hot.
degrees, yeah.
So hot, but yeah, it was good.
Gina, what about you? Did you make it to
Yeah.
anything?
I did. So I did Porch Fest. Went around, kind of talked to a few people. I did a kickball game. Trying to think of what else. I think that's what I'm missing. No, I haven't done that. I'm gonna do the farmer's market. I haven't done that yet. I'm just waiting for a time. It's been just, the weekends have been like super busy, either family events or like, traveling, so, yeah, so I'll probably, start to do, more of the farmer's market. Probably starting, not this weekend because we're going camping, but next weekend.
Max, how about you?
Yeah, are we talking about like?
Just overall, the summer, all the community
all the
events.
community events, any constituent concern, communications or just events?
Just what did you attend? What did you think? What was your?
Okay, so I went to the Pride flag raising ceremony as well. I met with, I went to the Memorial Day ceremony at the, I think some of us went there for our veterans.
Yeah,
And
that was
for,
that one too.
I went to the FHS graduation ceremony. We have some amazing graduates coming out of there. There's also the Franklin Freedom Team, which I've been engaged with. I presented a proclamation to Reverend Beverly Waring at the Unitarian Church, and that was very well received. They seemed to, she was retiring, stepping down as a new minister was going to take her place. She's only there for like 4 years because it's part of her position is temporary. And then I was able to make a Franklin LGBTQ Alliance meeting. I also went to the funeral for Oliver James Lewis, which was tough. But the community really came out to support the family there. So, and I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it.
So I did the Strawberry Stroll, I did the flag raising. I was at both watch parties, which were incredible, by the way. I thought those were done so well. They were so many people there, and everything went off really well. I kept running into both Ryan and Corey, and I remember Ryan saying the first night, he was like, nothing has gone wrong. He's like,
Yeah.
we were waiting for some problems, and nothing has happened. In fact, my youngest, my 3-year-old, was talking about that today. He enjoyed it so much, but he was actually talking about the big bugs. But he remembered it, and in a 3-year-old memory, I was impressed.
See, we're leaving an impression here on our youth.
And then I went to the farmer's market last week. I was gone the week of 4th of July, so I left on that Saturday, so I missed I came back on the 4th, so I missed the Pride celebration, I missed all of the 4th celebrations, and I forgot that the carnival was going up until the 5th, and I drove by that evening as they were packing it up, and I was like, my son was in the car, my older one, and he's like, what is this? 'Cause we've never been here over the 4th of July. And he's like, what do you mean we have a carnival in town? And I was like, oops. So that's apparently on our schedule for next year. Everybody would be angry. So I was at the farmer's market last week, and it was wonderful. It was bustling. There was a concert, even though it started to rain right as just drizzle right at the very end. There was a concert. People were, picnicking out there. They had blankets out to watch the band. And even though I had to leave just before 6, it was supposed to wrap up at 6. Although I think the music went on longer, so when I drove by around 6:30, people were still out there watching the band, even though it was raining at that point. And I was like, that's impressive. That's some commitment there. But yeah, so I mean, it has been a busy summer. I'm sure that you all have felt it more than we have. I did run into Councilor Malloy at I think every single event that I went to. So I know he has been at a lot of them. So I'm glad to see that we have had a lot of presence from the town council at these events. And I'm sure there were people that I didn't see that were there as well. I think I ran into Councilor Ujuku at one of the watch parties. So yeah.
Ted goes so long.
Ted, yeah, I didn't. I saw him at the flag raising, obviously, because he spoke. But I don't know that I saw him.
He was at the carnival because he was working in one of the booths.
Oh, was he?
So I saw him there. Yeah, he was in the Democratic booth. And then Mike and Bobby, they were with me and so was Max for the
Declaration.
thank you. That being done, they were present for that.
I also would like to give a shout out for the fallen hero ceremonies.
Mhm.
There's like 30 or 40 of them throughout the year, and it's just a great way to sort of support for veterans. And they seem to be pretty appreciative when a councilperson shows up. So.
And you mentioned the funeral for Oliver,
Yeah.
and I just saw on, I mean, it's not obviously a town sponsored event, but a community event. I did see that they are doing something on Wednesday, I think, I think it was on the comment, they're like having some like,
Vigil?
a vigil, yeah, I mean, I think they're having some lights and stuff from, I think it was from dusk until dark. So Wednesday, I think it was, they're playing from 7:30 to 9.
Today's Wednesday.
I'm sorry, next Wednesday.
King Street Memorial
Oh,
Park.
right.
Oh, that's right,
Today's
thank you,
Wednesday.
thank you, it was King Street Memorial Park, that's right, because they said that he enjoyed playing basketball there at King Street Park, thank you. So, you know, that's, I think, just putting that out there, I think that's a great way to support our grieving community as well. All right, do you all have any like information on how the events were attended or anything coming out of that? I mean,
I know that Corey's working on a watch party feedback survey. I haven't had a hand in that, but I think that she's getting really, really good feedback, and at least the feedback we're seeing on social media is really positive. And we've received some emails that are positive, so it just seems overall it was really, it was a great 2 days, and for the others I can't speak to. I wasn't here for Porch Fest, and then, but maybe we can talk to the cultural district about that, and then I'm sure Corey's already got something for feedback on that. And then I don't have feedback for, obviously, the Strawberry Stroll is the downtown partnership, so overall, though, at least those 2 events I know were positive, and Restaurant Week, which was back,
Which
was
that's
back,
what kicked everything off, right?
and I was just looking at all of the feedback from the survey I had sent out to community members and restaurant owners, and it was all really remarkably like positive for the first, I was genuinely shocked. It was really positive. So I was just updating the Restaurant Week webpage on the website to kind of just, you know, make sure people know that the next time we have one will be next year, and, you know, we heard their feedback and we appreciate it, and thank you to everyone who took the survey. They're still available on our social media pages and on the website. And for next year, we hope to have many more restaurants, but thank you to the restaurants and to residents and community members that did go out and take part and really support our local businesses in town, so.
Positive emails do exist.
That's all I get.
I didn't think I heard many complaints. I mean, I think the weather was great. The restaurant seemed happy. I mean, I've gone into a few myself just to check in, and Porch Fest went really well. I think the Strawberry Stroll was a huge hit. I just think that, I mean it sincerely, I don't think I even received one complaint about anything. I don't know, I think that's the sentiment from a lot of people. I think they were really happy, and I think I did hear a lot of positive feedback from people saying they saw Counselor X or School Committee Y or somebody add a lot of stuff, and I think that, I hope everybody here just knows that that means a lot to a lot of people. Even if they didn't talk to you and they see you or your family or a school committee member, a planning board member, you know, staff, I mean, it goes a long way. And I think people appreciate it in a bigger sense than maybe what they convey too. So, you know, I go to a lot of meetings and people say stuff on the way in and out of them or in them, and I heard nothing but positive feedback. So, even the how come nothing went wrong? You know, so I think it went really well, and I'm glad all of you were able to make it to some events. I don't think anybody expects everybody to go to everything, because we all have lives and stuff like that, but I think everything went really well. And I know Liz and Marina and Corey especially, and Ryan are looking to a few weeks of decompression.
Yes,
After the World
please,
Cup
yeah.
efforts, those were late nights, but.
It was tiring, but
But
it was
I think
good.
everything went well, and we just threw it on there just because it was a big part, I think, of communications, and I'm glad everybody was able to make it to some stuff, and I think the vibes were pretty positive, so, I think it was good.
But anything else you guys want to say about that? I'm glad, to reiterate, I'm glad that the council was there, that people were able to attend some of these things. I do think that's important for us to be getting out and, you know, being at these events. I have discovered that I am not recognizable like Jane. Everyone knows Jane, and no one knows who I am, which is I do not mind.
Yeah.
But
I went to Bellingham, I happened to be going to Market Basket and Aldi's, and I had people coming up to me, I'm like, I'm not even in the same town. But hi, how you doing? But yeah, so we're drunks. It's okay.
All right, so then the town council office hours follow-up discussion. I just have a couple things I want to say about this. So first of all, I think the three places we had talked about doing this were the library, the historical museum, and some of the schools. So first of all, during the summer, I don't think we should be trying to manage that in the schools because I mean, I know some of them are open for camps, but I think in general, we don't want to, you know, ask them to add another thing when they're only open for parts of it. And Roman is going to check with the historical commission about using the historical museum, and I have not heard back from her on that. So I'll follow up with her, but in the meantime, we're now mid-July. The library had said that every third Saturday of the month that they could give us a room, and so since that is this Saturday, I don't think we should try to squeeze this in, but I think that we should try the third Saturday in August to do, like, you know, an extra office hours there at the library. And I will commit to being there. Hope maybe some of you guys can join me then too.
I actually had done something on Facebook.
Oh yeah, that's right, you put a poll.
Yeah, and I did get some feedback. I got some private messaging and then I got some comments, and a lot of what I got was like mid to late mornings
Okay.
would work, because if people are getting kids off to school or whatever, they wanna come. I did get a couple that were saying like some evenings once in a while for people who are working and can't necessarily get there but would like to. So it was very much accepted with having more. So having additional hours is gonna be a positive. And I think maybe trying to juggle it where maybe we do have, you know, 1 month we do one at like midday, we do another one like in an evening hour. So we are literally opening it up for anybody who might wanna show up. I can be there on the third Saturday of August. Once we have that committed, then I will make sure, and I'll even just read my calendar now.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to Felicia and see if I can get that nailed down on time and room and get that out to you guys as soon as I have that confirmed.
So you're talking on the 15th roughly?
I don't have a calendar. I probably do have a calendar, but I can't find it. So whatever the third Saturday.
That would be the 15th.
Okay, perfect.
The 15th?
Yeah,
August.
At the library?
at the library. So, and I will confirm with Felicia that,
So maybe
what
on
time?
that one, if we can do like, maybe like a mid-morning, like say 10, 11 o'clock time frame, like a start time.
yeah, no one will be taking kids to school then.
Right, well, it's on a
Yeah.
Saturday, but like for people who wanted like the mid-morning,
Yeah.
because you're not gonna have that one in the library at night.
Right,
And start with the mid-morning and stuff like that, way people have sports or whatever they're doing,
yeah, that's
they can
right.
show up.
Mid or late morning, I don't know what sports are happening in the summer. I don't know.
I'm past that stage.
Yeah, I'm not quite, I'm sort of, but we don't have anyone doing summer sports. Okay, so that sounds good, and I will follow up with Rowan again, see about the historical museum. And I'll restart the conversation with Colin about the schools, but looking ahead to the fall, not trying to get anything in until, you know, give them a minute in September to start, maybe looking to be at schools in October. All right, anything else on that topic?
Well, just, maybe I could try to reach out if the food pantry is interested in doing office hours as well.
Okay,
If that's okay with you.
That's
Because I know there's a lot of people there that are kind of underserved, so.
Mhm. Yeah, and you had mentioned before, I remember their boardroom upstairs, that's where they do.
Oh, I didn't even realize they had a boardroom up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They do, I mean, it's not huge, but that's where they do their volunteer, like trainings and stuff
Okay,
too,
we can
so,
match reach
so
out.
there's space there. Yeah, which also, I mean, I'm gonna throw this out there, we're talking about the Franklin Food Pantry, I also saw on Facebook that they are looking for more volunteers, if anyone here, anyone who is watching is interested in volunteering with the food pantry, I know they are looking for volunteers, but that's not part of this agenda. Okay, so then the third topic is the constituent email response policy. And Jean, I know you put together a draft policy based off of what we had talked about in our previous meeting.
Yes.
Do you wanna say anything, like give an overview of that, or do you wanna just open it to see if there's any comments on this?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of what we said, so what we were talking about was how to handle when you receive an email. We get these, emails to everyone, and I think what I try to capture is what we talked about, which is, whoever, if a town council member sees it, wants to respond to it with a factual-based answer, they can answer it, but we want them to do a reply all, so we know that they did answer it. They can either answer it with a factual-based answer, or they can direct them to the town administrator. And the town administrator can also do a reply all, so that we know what the response was, everyone's aware of it. And then I think he said anyone can respond individually without replying or copying anybody else on it if they want to. Like James, had a preference if I want to reply to everybody's email, so that's fine, just do it on, on your own.
Right.
You'll know what the first response is already, so you won't be contradicting anything that anyone else said. So I think that's really what I try to capture in here. And then, kind of the do's and don'ts.
All right, excellent, and thank you so much for typing all that up, really appreciate it. And Max and Jane, do you guys have any thoughts or comments or suggestions on the guidelines that Jean picked up?
No, not really.
I did have, I'm just thinking about this now, but I know just in general, not in regards to responding to emails, but in regards to like the signature guidelines that for your email accounts, I don't know if that should be in here too, or if that should be something separate. Just a thought. You know, like how we're supposed to have certain things that, well, I gotta still update mine, but you have a certain signature on your email account saying, this is public record, yada, 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 that kind of stuff.
Is there like a standard template signature?
Isn't it on, it's on any franklinma.gov signature. I mean, at the bottom of the email, it should say.
You just copy that.
No, I believe it's, if
there.
it's a given account from the town, I believe it should be there, saying like, this is a private, this is public record or whatever.
Oh, there is a.
Specific languages.
No, I think Liz is right. I think what you're saying is in the footer of the email, I think there's standard language that Tim has. I think most towns have this.
Every town
too.
does, yeah.
There's some sort of language that, you may not see it when you hit send, but you do see it when you get the reply back or whatever. It's not like right there when you send an email, but it is embedded in almost in every email that we send out with a .gov. It's like a standard thing that Tim and Mark wrote years ago.
I just sent
No,
myself
we
a
don't
test
have to
email.
put it in, it just shows up.
Just-
Yeah, this email's
It's
in
across
place.
every single
Yeah.
FranklinPS.net and FranklinMA.gov email that's with new technology.
Yep, it
So we don't-
does.
yeah.
I just.
Me too.
Yeah, I just
The other
pulled it
thing
up.
would just be maybe something like, use your email account, your town email account for all business, basic stuff like that, like, don't use your personal email for town business. I don't know if there's anything like that that is missing from this that might be important to get.
We can put that in here, for sure. I don't think I know, that wasn't my intention.
Yeah,
to put
I
that in
understand.
here,
Yeah.
but I can add it.
Yeah, like, if there's anything like that, that might be helpful to put in just for, so people can't say we didn't say so.
So you had mentioned the signature, is there like a default signature, is that what you're talking about, or were you talking about the disclaimer, like, I mean, I just signed my name with mine with my name, I don't know if we're
There's no
supposed to do anything.
protocol about
Okay.
what you guys need to have, because your email address is your
Okay.
name.
Okay.
But, I mean, to be professional, I would have your name and
Yeah.
your role.
Alright. Okay. Good, so I think, Jean, I think you did a really good job of typing this up, so I think this is really good. Guidelines for responding to emails. I think we should, take this and, we can add a line to start with, as an intro to this, just saying, counselors should be using their town email, for town business and not their personal one. But I think we should, bring this to the full council at our next meeting. So then, assuming that they will take it on, then that's how we can move forward with emails from that point. What do you
Yeah,
want?
I was thinking maybe I just added like a second short paragraph right after the first paragraph, to just say that the email should be, all town business should be, for this, through your tenant email. And before I get into the
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think it's perfect.
I'll throw that in there.
The other thing, I mean, this is kind of a minor thing, but if you ever create like an account with your town email, which I don't know if you should do it anyway, but remember, when you give the account up, you're not gonna have access to that email anymore to use your account that you signed up with. So just never think about, it's more of a wonky thing, but.
Yeah, hopefully nobody's doing
No.
that.
I think what we've been seeing in council for it. But,
Yeah, with that email, I have like now 8 email accounts. Various things. So that's confusing enough without, tying in, things to your town email.
all right, well, excellent. Okay, so then we can bring that, to the full council in our next meeting. Is that all right, Jamie? Can we add that to our?
Yeah,
Or-
September 2nd meeting. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, not,
The August one.
not August.
We'll have it on first thing on the, well, may not be first thing, but we'll put it on for the September 2nd, yep.
Next council meeting, also I would just let them know about the potential office hours in case any of the other councils want to come. For August.
Yes, yeah, we'll mention that. Okay,
Good point.
So I'll let Julie know.
thank you. Okay, and so then, our next, unless there's anything else on that. Okay, so then the next agenda item is the draft social media engagement guidelines for elected and appointed officials. So Liz, I'll let
Yes.
you take it away.
I did send it to you all for review. I did hear back from Jane, had a good question about, making, like, the difference between having a personal account versus having a town councilor account versus having a town council account. And we discussed, just to make sure it was clear that you're of course allowed to keep your personal accounts, and that you just need to distinguish yourself, or say who you are, and introduce yourself as a counselor when you're talking about town business. That's kind of the one question I had from Jane, and then Carolyn made a good point to just make a quick little edit about distinguishing it for specifically referring to town business when talking on social media to be appropriate and just kind of follow typical communications protocols as you would if you were talking to any kind of constituent or resident. So this is the overall guidelines for elected and appointed officials. This isn't a policy, this is just guidelines. I think I mentioned in there the open meeting law, so that basically it's covered. The public records and ethics law is covered. It goes over public engagement, misinformation, personal versus official town accounts. And I also linked the official town social media policy, the new policy that we put into place for staff members. So I linked that too, just for reference. And there's also a social media moderation policy that I have sent out and posted on the website to send it out to staff to have every official town account to have this listed in their profile as a link, so that it just shows when you're basically to anyone who's interacting with the page to know what's going to be allowed and what's not, and kind of just give those parameters when even for pictures of children or minors or, you know, just the appropriate way to communicate as a official town account. So those are also, I can also link the social media moderation policy too, if you guys are interested in looking at it, but they're all on the website. So does anyone have any other questions? I know I didn't hear from Max or Jean specifically if there was anything that came up, or if you read it and thought you had any questions or comments on it.
So one thing that I kind of learned around the ethics guidelines, and having talked with the Massachusetts State Ethics Board, is that if you do have, say, a conflict on a particular topic, you can still sign off in social media if you want. You're not prohibited from doing that, as long as you clearly state that you are speaking as an individual, that you represent nobody else. So, I haven't read this all to see if that's in there, but I think that's something that, we definitely should make clear, that just if you are gonna sound off on something in social media that you may be conflicted on, to make sure that you make it absolutely clear that you're speaking as an individual.
Yes, and that is in there to have a disclaimer, to make sure that you mentioned that, so. That's a good point to just reiterate, honestly. So.
I had two things. The first was, so our department's gonna be using this as well, or just the council?
No, this is for elected officials and appointed officials.
Okay. In terms of appointed officials, my understanding is there's been some court cases around the fact that because you have free speech, a town official cannot delete comments. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, there is a public records law.
So anyone who has a appointed official who has like a specialized account, elected officials don't have accounts, but are we talking about town employees? Do town employees know they cannot delete comments?
On an official social media account?
On official social
Yes,
media, okay.
that's in the social media policy.
Okay, good. The other thing is if you have a campaign page or a campaign account, if it's separate and it's a campaign account, could that stuff still be considered a public record?
No, because it's an official campaign activity, it's not something that's relative to the government, and I don't think campaign activity is susceptible to the public records law.
Okay.
I think that emphasizes the point made before on the email thing about using public emails. That's why we buy them for everybody, so that they can use that exclusively, so that if your Gmail account is a double account, your personal plus campaign and everything else, then there's really, you're just separating it pretty well. But it doesn't, if it's Max Morrongiello for office, that's not susceptible to public records law.
Okay. And is there anything that, and I don't know if this is a town forum, I can even ask this, but so just feel free to say, is there anything that I can do as a candidate that I can't do, or can I do anything that is there anything that I can't do as a candidate that I can do as a public official? Like if I use my campaign account to do stuff that I would normally respond to as an official, is that prohibited?
You have to, I would just write a disclaimer that this is my campaign
candidate,
account,
yeah,
and right.
So I can still do pretty much anything that I.
Just really quickly on this disclaimer conversation. So, Councilor Grella's point, he is correct that in certain circumstances under the ethics statute, you can still participate in a matter, whether it's on social media or at a meeting, or you don't lose your rights as an abutter, you don't use your rights in a lot of areas. But I do want to caution, it's not a 100% that if you, and this is why I'm bringing this up, because you just brought it. If you disclaim at the bottom of an email, here's my public email account, but I'm only responding to you as a candidate, right? To Councilor Grella's point earlier, unfortunately though, this is not like a widespread blanket thing where if you just disclose that you're speaking as a citizen, that does not make you immune from the ethics law altogether, okay? I do want to be clear, I don't want this to be like, well, if I just go on social media tonight and I just say whatever I feel, but I just declare I'm saying it as a citizen, or I'm only saying this as a member of the board of directors of this thing, or over here I'm wearing this hat. You can't just move hats like that willy-nilly completely. So to your point about the campaign stuff, this is what gets really important about separating those accounts and separating those correspondence. I would suggest that you forward, if somebody forwarded you something campaign-wise to your public email, just for example.
Oh, yeah, that, I understand that.
Yeah,
right.
you should send that to your campaign account and then say, I'm responding to you on a campaign matter. Or you emailed my personal account, I'm now emailing you back from my campaign account. Or if it went to campaign, I'm emailing you from my, you've been a lifelong friend, I'm corresponding, you know. And make no mistake, this is very frustrating to have to articulate because I feel like this is so bureaucratic and that it flies in the face of common sense, but I'm just giving this advice to make sure that you're extra cautious, right? Because I do think we all, or all of you probably do have multiple accounts, multiple places that can sometimes blend. And people email you, I'm sure, to all those places too, where you correspond with people when it's hard. So I just want to make sure it's not.
So hypothetically, let's say there's an issue coming out on a council meeting, and I say on a campaign page, this is what I support on this issue. Is that a public record as a,
Yes,
even though I'm doing it as a candidate?
you need to disclaim that.
So if I disclaim on my page, I'm a candidate, all my posts are as a candidate, but,
And
and
like
I
Jamie
think that
said,
this is.
it could still be
You know,
used, it says anything officially talking about official town business is subject to the public records law.
Okay.
So just remember
So
that.
just save it.
and you have a lot more leeway as an elected official on that type of stuff, because if you're in a campaign, even if you're not in campaign season, and you want to make your political position known on any issue in town, you have a right to do that. You really don't need to disclaim it fully, but I think in the best practice, to be cautious, it may be helpful to do that. But you as elected officials can really say a lot of what you want on a campaign account because you're elected officials, right? So you do have a little extra grace period, and love the grace on that, especially if you're talking about a town-related issue or a national, international issue or a political issue. And you can say that also on your public emails, right? If people are emailing you about what are you gonna do on zoning, you're like, I campaigned for this, and this is what I want to do, and that's okay too, because that's in your official capacity as a town council. Obviously, I don't need to say this to you, but I mean, just in general. But if you're starting to talk about donations, if you're getting into other stuff on that, that's where things get a little more
Conflict.
a little more thick. But the OCPF and the Ethics Commission have given elected officials a pretty strong bandwidth. I think to Councilor Grell's point earlier, you know, if you're directly related to an issue in your butter, or if you're an employee, you know, it's kind of like what Dave Callahan goes through, I think, on the school committee, right? Because his wife is a teacher. You know, there is some leverage that people can still participate in a lot of discussions. I think what you guys are highlighting is a best practice. And it probably makes sense to do that when you feel it's right. But again, lastly, you're all in charge of that, right? That's your decisions, and ultimately, it's just like speeding down the road. I mean, if you get caught, you gotta pay a speeding ticket. I mean, you're really only in tough way if somebody decides to challenge that with the Ethics Commission, right? So, I mean, you're kind of like a self-policing system. If that helps.
That's all I got, thank you.
I think it's important to, sorry, my
Okay.
remember that right now, we're not candidates. Right now, we are council. And until we come back up for re-election, we are not going to be councils, then we'll be candidates-elect because we're trying to regain our seats. So anything that we're putting out there right now is gonna be taken as coming from a member of council. If it's your personal opinion and not something that was discussed at a council meeting or at one of the other town meetings, it's just a personal opinion, I think you're okay to just do it. I've done that. But if you're going to comment on anything social media and has anything to do with anything related to what's going on within the town, I think it is important to say, this is my thought. I am on town council, however, this is more of a personal opinion versus a council opinion. Because no matter what, once we got elected, we are no longer candidates until next November. Well, no, the one after that.
You should be able to say whatever you want, essentially, I mean, candidate,
Right.
I mean, politicians do that all the time, you know that.
Yeah.
Right, it's just you wanna make sure that you're representing your views and not the entire town council.
Yeah, because someone could come up and we'll just say, I went on Facebook and I said X, Y, Z. And I was maybe just talking my own personal thought process. I wouldn't put it past someone to come up and say, well, that's not what you said on social media. And you know why I say that? Because I was that person that stood at that microphone and said, that's not what you said. This is what you said. This is what you did. And so now we need to understand it. Because I didn't look at them as regular town people on social media because they weren't responding as regular town people on social media. They were responding to people's questions or concerns on Facebook as a member of council. They didn't necessarily put the disclaimer there, but I knew it. So I came to that microphone and I held them to their word. So I think for me, and maybe I'm the different animal in this thing, but for me, if I'm gonna put something out there, I wanna make it very clear that this is not me as a council person, this is my general opinion, this is how I feel. If it's a town
It could be you as a council person too, but just as long as it's not, you're not representing the town,
right,
right, and you're not representing the entire council, it's just representing you.
right,
But, you know, it could be how you vote, you know, it's like, oh, I'm against such and such, that's your right to be against it, and you can say it here, you can say it in social media. It's just that you don't wanna say, well, you know, you don't wanna make it sound like you're speaking for all of us, and you don't wanna make it sound like you're speaking for the town
right.
administration.
And I actually did do that because there were people complaining on social media, and I got my name called out, so I wasn't about to not come back and respond, because you tagged me, you're gonna get a response. And I did my general response, and I said, you know, more than happy to sit down and have a cup of coffee, whatever you wanna do. And I say, but I stand where I stand. I meant what I said, and just for your point of reference, as a town councilor, I voted against the FY27 budget. If you haven't watched the meetings, I suggest you watch them, and if you still don't know what's going on or where I stand, let's have a conversation and I'll let you know where I stand. But I made it very clear that a lot of times our personal opinions do reflect us when we sit on council. But we have to make sure that they, like Jean said, that we're not speaking for, I'm not speaking for Matt or Caroline or Jean or anybody else.
Yeah,
Literally, it's just, this is how I think and feel.
these guidelines are really more for your benefit and they're for your knowledge and to just kind of be aware, and it's really for you. It's just so you have a kind of a guideline of what's expected and what will happen if you don't. You don't follow protocol. But no, yeah, they're just guidelines, so it's the guidelines, so everyone weighed in, that's good.
I think they were good. They were thorough and clear, and I appreciate having the as you said, the guidelines, the best practices here.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? All right, then. Oh, yeah.
Two minor points just add to the discussion. Steve Sherlock, 13 Magnolia Drive, Community Information Director, Franklin Matters. One minor point, and I know you're referencing in the doc, in terms of the reply all, make sure that people are aware that they should look at the thread before replying, because depending upon how the sequence is, you may think you're gonna be the first one, but somebody else has and it's already in the thread. So just as a caution, because I know you also want to make sure you don't have multiple reply alls. The other piece, and to add to the discussion that you just most recently had, and I think reinforcing the point Jane was making as well, Councilor Callaway-Tripp, was while it's correct from an ethics point of view to have kind of separate hats, I think she was referencing respectfully as well that people may not be able to distinguish which hat you're wearing at that time. So just add that as an extra caution in terms of, I want to do this, I want to say this, I'm in within my right, but how is it going to be perceived? Because as this is guidelines, you're going to pay ultimately, successfully or not, with however it's been received. So I think you're aware of that, but having watched a bunch of these, that's one of the things that I wish people had, maybe taken a little bit more time to think about what they were going to say and how they were going to say it. So, thank you.
thank you. Appreciate the perspective there. Okay, and I will say, like, you know, I appreciate having this conversation again, because I know we've had it a couple times, but I had one person who keeps telling me I'm not allowed to talk on Facebook at all anymore now that I'm a town councilor. So I appreciate that we're having this conversation and clarifying that, so that it is clear that we are still allowed to talk. So thank you for that. All right, then. All right, so next agenda item.
Or do we want to bring
yeah.
that to the town council?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
I was just gonna ask, did you vote on the other one too?
I think it was an
Yes,
informal.
we did. It's going to, oh, they didn't vote, no.
No.
We
Didn't
didn't,
vote.
you're right, we didn't vote. The-
Probably vote
Okay.
on both of them, my apologies. I didn't.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so back up to the email guidelines.
Okay,
How
so
are we
3 and
doing?
4.
Yes, but we do have, we did talk about a couple of changes that we were gonna make to that, yes.
I move the draft town council email guidelines as amended.
Second?
All right, excellent, so this is, yeah, to send it to the full committee, the full council. Okay, can we just do a, like, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, great. All right.
Gotta hit a little harder.
Yeah, okay,
Nice.
I was like, she's gonna hit the gavel.
yeah, I think I went the first time. All right, okay, so then the second one on the social media engagement guidelines, I will entertain a motion to,
Sorry. I move to recommend the draft social media engagement guidelines for elected and appointed officials to the full town council.
Seconded.
all right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, excellent. Yes. Okay. Thank you for catching that.
I'll make a note to just have that for the September 2nd as well.
Is it possible to at least put the email guidelines on next week's meeting? Just to say, hey, so like starting a week from now, we can do that?
You can do both of them if you want. I
Okay.
mean, I will say it's a meeting of Island of Misfit Toys. Like, it's a bunch of different stuff that's been backed up because of all the other budget meetings. But I think these would fit in there.
Okay.
If you want, I'll talk to Council DeRocco about it tomorrow and just get the okay. But
Okay.
actually, I don't see a problem with that at all. Either, if you want both of them.
Yeah.
I think the quicker we get it
Sure.
through.
Yeah.
I was just under the impression there was a lot on the agenda, and that's why I was like, that's why I thought you said September 2nd. Is there not?
We're used to very large agendas, it's okay.
It's true, at least
It is.
I don't have to.
The agenda will look long next week, and it is, but it's a lot of very non-controversial. There's one thing that may be a little bit debatable. Most of the stuff is non-controversial, and these would probably fit right into that. So, yeah, absolutely. Let me talk to Bobby tomorrow.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Good. I appreciate, yeah, then we'll have those done, and then we can start utilizing those guidelines, assuming they are accepted. Okay, then, all right, moving on to general discussion. We have the communication subcommittee work plan. You all have a copy of that. So, just, Max.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No.
Okay, so soon. So, thank you. I went through the notes from the April 27th meeting, and I noticed, I compared it to what was in here. And we have a lot of good stuff in here, but I also found a few things that we didn't make it onto the paper. So I just was wondering if maybe we could adopt 3 of them that we missed, or something like that. I noticed that we're talking about making sure, each of us committing to making sure we have at least one of us in the office hour slot that we schedule if we have a new office hour. We talked about short 30 to 60-second explainer videos, something like Prop 2.5 and overrides. And the Franklin TV actually volunteered to record them for us. So that's another thing we could put into this list. I think someone recommended quarterly, Caroline, you recommended quarterly volunteer shifts for counselors at places like the Food Pantry or the Safe Coalition, which Jane also sort of supported. Liz made a comment about putting YouTube links directly on the minutes. I don't know if that was still possible. Steve Sherlock suggested we publicize the subcommittee's own meetings in addition to the town council meetings, making that part of the work plan. And I also raised whether we wanted to, we didn't say one way or the other whether we want to do these things, but whether we wanted to look at paid social media reach, or whether we want to look at internal communications, like looking at how the organization communicates inside, between departments, if that's something that we should also look at as well. So, and then we also, just so we know, we accomplished one thing we didn't even recognize ourselves for, which was the department's communications roundtable. So should we give ourselves a pat on the back for that? So I mean, open up, if any of those things appeal, we want people back in, and fine. If people don't want to put them in, that's fine. I just thought I'd mention that as something that we might have missed, some things that we might have missed that weren't in the plan.
Thank you. I appreciate you reminding us of those. My one thought is paid reach, I feel like is not in our budget.
Okay.
That's my opinion on that. But I'll let anyone else want to weigh in on either that or any of the other things that Max just mentioned.
I could repeat things if you want me to, even share this if you want to. Look, this is in my notes if people want to take a look.
Let's see that for a second.
Yeah.
My ears can't process so fast.
I did hear you talk about the explainer videos. I think that'd be a great thing to do. Maybe we can come up with a list of potential topics and see about, I think that the big lift there is just putting together that script for those. But I think, as long as we are working with the subject matter experts on that, I think we can come up with some good things to put out periodically, especially if they're timely. That's when people are going to be paying attention to them, right? The quarterly volunteerism, I would love to do that, and like you said, Jane supported. I actually can't remember from the April 27th. I felt like that was kind of like, hey, I threw it out there, and people were like, so I didn't even think about adding to this. But if people are interested, I am happy to reach out and see if we can coordinate some of those.
I'm going to agree with you on the not in the budget for the Griffiths. The other things, I'm happy if we want to add them back in. The other things, I'm fine. I'm going to try to reach out to both the food pantry. It's been a long summer. Food pantry, and I'm actually gonna reach out to Jennifer Levine and see if I can kind of meet up with them and do a little bit over there. For me, that won't happen until school's back in session. But once school starts back up, then that's my goal, to try to get involved. And
do you want to bring up office hours with them while you're on the phone with them, or talking to them? To have them with either, we said the food pantry, but maybe the Safe Coalition too, if you want to.
yeah, I probably won't reach out until we get close to September, because I won't be able to until school starts. But when I do, yes, I can find out about that.
I can also reach out to them too, about office hours, if we wanted to at least get that conversation moving so that you don't have to worry about that.
One I saw on here that I liked is the explainer videos.
Yeah.
I really want to do that for a number of topics.
Okay, so why don't we just add in the explainer videos, and we think, I don't know if we do all of this, we're gonna put too much on Liz, so maybe if we just add back in the explainer videos,
Okay.
that would be good.
What topics that come to mind? So we might be able to work with Franklin TV on this, but Liz can coordinate a little bit of this with departments. Is there?
Just understanding Prop 2.5, I think is a huge one, because I don't think people really understand that. They don't understand how property taxes work.
Maybe the split tax rate.
I was gonna say,
And
after we
split
do our
ends.
workshops, maybe.
Yep, and a follow on with the split tax rate that flows right with that, because, I think people don't understand, like, for example, like why, if we can only raise, if taxes can only go up 2.5%, why is my tax bill going up by 6%? And helping them to understand how it's calculated, I think, I've often thought of, like, so I'll write a script for it, actually, that we can review and make sure that I, give it to Jake before I do anything with it.
I'm happy to be, work with you on that too, so.
Yeah, to make sure that I think, don't get anything wrong. But,
No.
It'd be like numerical examples in there.
We could do, and maybe this was a bigger thing a couple months ago. We could do a really quick explainer on committee appointments, stuff, and how that that process works, and
I'm just a bill, I'm only a bill.
I mean, we could do Schoolhouse Rock songs too, like, I'm okay with that. I won't sing,
Downtown,
but-
a minute later, make an appointment, but wait, this is supposed to be Chair DeLorco.
Take that 10 seconds from Franklin TV and you got your clip. People want to see.
That is our soundbite for the tonight's meeting.
Even the clippets
It's their
could be
liner
a-
for the radio, they play.
Even the clippets could be something where you explain the email protocols.
Yes.
It could be where you explain how, you know, for social media, like, understand this is where we are, blah, blah, blah. It's basically, if people aren't watching the meetings and they don't wanna spend 2, 4, 7 hours watching them, these are quick excerpts that they can watch in a matter of a couple of minutes, and still get the gist of what is being put in front of them. I think that would be good.
The other thing, I mean, we could, it might be a lot of work for the TV studio, but maybe taking like, clips from throughout the meeting and then condensing them into like a, 2-minute recap, what happened. But that would be a lot of editing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it might be easier to be like, hey, we just did this, let's write a really quick recap. I mean, and we could, stick a link wherever it's posted, and be like, this was the meeting where we talked about it, and, or something like that, but.
Today, in modern social media, you guys would know better than me. Don't elected officials always just take a video of themselves after the
Yeah.
meeting in the parking lot for 20 seconds and say, hey Franklin, I just want to tell you right now, we just got this done, and this done, and this done, and this done. Here we are working for you, have a nice night, it's 12 o'clock, we're here till midnight. And, and then like drop it and then post it, right? Like,
Yeah.
That is a good thing.
I-
I
That's
think,
what I was
like,
thinking about,
I
yeah.
think, I think her and I can regurgitate things till we're blue in the face. Kobe tried this a little, I think other counselors did, Steve, you may know. I'm not the social media guy, so I'm not up with the latest, but I think Ted might have done a few of those late at night.
I think Ted would be good for it. I love social media, but I don't think I'm really good, like, walking with my phone in front of my face and talking.
Everyone knows
I'm trying to-
Jane, you're good at it.
Yeah, but I'm trying to
Oh,
avoid
no,
the
you don't wanna do it.
self-videos.
Come on, Jane, you'd be perfect for that role, and you're obviously really good.
Yes, Jane would be good.
I don't
as
know.
well.
I think
Everybody
people wanna
already
hear that
knows
stuff
my
from you
face,
guys.
they don't need to see it.
And I
You
think
know,
that's
like-
the idea, they hear it from us, but I think, when we talk about
Yeah.
these topics, it's making sure that we're like, hey, let's make sure we're getting the correct information out
Sure.
to answer that, and, if it's midnight and I'm leaving here and I'm recording this, I am not gonna promise that what I'm putting out there is gonna be the most concise or clear.
Yeah.
So, if there are topics, I have no problem with people, doing that, I think that's fine.
I might try
But if
it.
we're doing like a topic, that we're like, hey, let's give you a really quick explainer video, I think it should be something that's maybe a little bit more scripted, to be clear.
And here I am to talk about Prop 2.5, right? That's kind of like, well, yeah.
For those, I definitely would utilize Franklin TV,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think the vignette, if you go to our YouTube page, they're old now, but they still kind of resonate. There are a bunch of 1-minute economic development clips there, and we did do shorter in-studio interviews,
Yep.
so that our YouTube page would be perfect for that. I mean, there's a lot of coordination, but I think we need direction a little bit from you guys or Liz needs some direction so we know what to work on next. So.
All right, that sounds good. I think, maybe if we come up with a couple topics, if we think of some things that are,
Yeah, if you're getting
questions
any
that people
questions.
have, yeah.
I think it should, like I said, for me, I think it's like the bigger topics, like doing one where you're explaining the email responses so everyone is understanding. That's a good one, because no one's gonna go to the town website and read any of this, I promise you. But they will watch a 2-minute video. When we talk about split tax rate, that would be a good one. Talking about how property tax, that's a good one, because it is a problem, because that's exactly what I got when someone was emailing me. Well, we only raised it 2.5%, but my property tax went up 6%. Okay. Well, I'm gonna send you to Jamie, and because I wasn't really sure how to answer him, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't get it.
The assessment of the home went up.
I know, But I understand it now, cause I had a long conversation with Jean, but I was even confused. If we're only going up to, how do we go to 6? That's a big jump. So I think having that explain more in detail, but in small snippets, people will be more apt to pay attention and maybe get it.
I give you another example that I heard, and someone who's been around and knows the town and everything like that. If we just did a better job assessing, say, commercial properties, that we could get more revenue by increasing the taxes on commercial properties. Well, that's not true. Because if we did reassess the commercial properties and we did get more money from them, it would be offset because we can't go beyond 2.5. Am I correct on that?
Well, yes and no. I mean, by the way, cheap plug, July 23rd at 6 p.m. I think Councilor Griffith and Councilor Morrongiello know this, but the Board of Assessors will be here live and in person to talk about new growth.
This is how I'll be spending my anniversary.
Oh.
It's okay.
You had an opportunity to say no
I
that
did.
night.
I did. But I got picked anyway.
But I think obviously those are issues. The answer, unfortunately, Gene, is yes and no, right? Because if you take a property that was valued at 50 million and then it goes to 60, you're gonna end up paying more money, on that parcel, right? The thing that residents don't see is that the 2.5 is in the aggregate of the levy.
Exactly.
It's not individual properties. And so I think that's probably the snippet that people
This
see.
person was arguing that our individual commercial assessments are not correct, and if the assessors did a better job of getting that number right, that would increase our overall revenue.
So
Yeah.
for,
And that's
Is that
not
true?
fully true. There's an art and a science to commercial properties. One thing that's not true is, wait a minute, the property's assessed at 50 million, but someone just bought it for 100 million. Why are we not charging people 100 million? That's not how you assess properties. And I would also acknowledge, like in the city of Boston right now, you see commercial properties plummeting in value, right? So if a building was valued and appraised at 60 million in downtown Crossing and it's sold for 10, right? You don't appraise it at 10. And Kevin will, and the Board of Assessors will talk about this on the workshop on new growth. And so I do agree though that, 30 or 30-second vignettes or 60-second vignettes.
But Jamie,
It's like urban myths. It's like Mythbusters,
absolutely,
right?
growth.
It's like a Mythbusters series.
A change in assessment isn't gonna change overall aggregate revenue.
Right.
In most cases, that's true.
Unless it's,
Unless it's something
new growth.
substantially large, that's right.
Yeah.
Like 117 Dean Ave is a good example where that property was valued about $1.5 million, and then when you brought in that complex, it's now assessed at whatever, 60 million, or 50 million, or whatever. I mean, that's a size, those are rare, right? Those are,
But that would count as new growth, wouldn't it?
if it comes online in the middle of that fiscal year, some of it can be construed as new growth. So, we sent you guys the charts, and I'm sure it'll make its way around to everybody else, but actually that's just tax base. Eventually that just blends into what your tax levy is the next year. Those types of developments though actually then offset the 2.5 that people see, right? Because you make that 2.5%, you can go up, and if you have a big commercial building come on place, then that does suppress to some degree the relative value to all the other buildings, and it would make people's property bills go up a little bit, go down a little bit, or not go up as much a little bit. So it's complicated, and I know it's hard to explain. I'm sure anybody listening still don't understand what I just said. And that's why I think some of these workshops, and maybe there's some clips in those workshops that could be put online. But I do agree, this is almost like a Mythbusters series.
maybe we should dress up with a little, like, one of those French hats and, a mustache, and pretend we are the Mythbusters for this video.
Some sort of code.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's what people are looking for, is like the frequently asked questions almost. Like, is this true? Is it a water ban? No, it is not a water ban, right? Like, I think those are the things that people are trying to.
Do we have enough water?
We have enough water, right? Yes, exactly. We're out of water. No, we're not, right? So I think those are the things that So I think maybe if you have issues that people have contacted you about, maybe you could email Liz with maybe over what you heard on the campaign too, right? Just like, what are those topics? I mean, we can do these fairly quickly, but I think we need to know exactly what kind of topics.
I think another thing that might be helpful is just going over both the town council and the administration's accomplishments. I mean, we've made a lot of efficiencies in the budget and in the government and streamlining things, improving how we function, merging certain departments. I think maybe just highlighting what we've accomplished is also something that we can do a better job of.
That's, I agree with that.
All right, excellent. Anything else to add on that?
We need to approve this formally, this
work
work
plan?
plan as amended with the,
I feel like we didn't, did we, I feel like we weren't formally,
No, I don't think we did.
Just think we're looking for like, is there other,
Working.
are these vignettes? Is there anything else y'all want Liz or us to work
And
on?
that's
or-
what leads us to our next,
yeah.
Cause now you just accomplished a
Letter.
few of those goals that you had already. Like, is there anything else y'all wanna do or want us to focus on over the summer?
I did include a draft community engagement ideas for the council to look at on the agenda too, so.
All right, well, do we have the,
It's just general discussion, I don't think, unless there should be some kind of priority or next step. But it may be good to look at these ideas first before we could add more to the
all right,
work plan.
Are there any surveys or like quantitative surveys that are going to be being put out in the future? Because I would like to,
About what?
about anything.
Nothing
About like,
that I'm
maybe
aware of.
about like, I mean, we talked about trust and that kind of stuff, or about these viewpoints of how people are viewing the town. Okay.
We
Just let me
just
know
did
in
them
the
last
future,
year.
because I'm very quantitative.
Nothing planned, but if the subcommittee or the council wanna do one on that stuff, we can. I mean, that's another discussion.
I mean, I've only been here like less than 6
Yeah.
months, so why don't you give it a year max, right?
Okay.
Let me work my magic.
No, yeah. Also, on something like trust, you've gotta be careful that the data set you're getting is not just some sort of stacked deck, right? That I think you and I know, that's why the random sample of what happened a couple of years ago was powerful.
When is that going to be on the table to be redone? Is it 4 years?
That's up to you guys. I mean, I had no interval. I mean, we'd never done anything that scientific before. I mean, that was a point. We used federal money for that, a grant too, so we didn't even pay for it locally. I think those are expensive.
Mhm.
So I think the council would have to prioritize, a solid $30, $40, $50, $60,000. I mean, these things are expensive to do. It's like pollsters. You'd have to choose what you're obviously doing pretty carefully, but, I understand a lot of people get the Observer or Franklin Matters and other stuff, but those polls really aren't, those are very skewed. But if you want to get into those other issues, I think you could still do a survey, but it would certainly cost money for a company to do it. We didn't have one that was set up like an automatic every 2 years. We just did it to see if the community liked it and if the council liked it. Obviously, there's a different council. But we can certainly, try to do something like that again in the future.
I think in terms of surveys, in terms of something that's not representative, a representative sample, I would be more interested in the crosstabs, like people with this interest are more likely to think this, and people with this interest are more likely to think that. So that way you don't have to worry about the actual, is this a representative sample, or actually just looking at something different. In terms of the survey, I think maybe lining up, I know with the last master plan, we had a 5-year review. And so maybe lining it up so that we have data for that. Maybe if we ever do want to tie strategic planning into that master plan, we could do master plan, strategic plan, master plan review, strategic plan, and maybe some of this data stuff, all at once, and sort of get a good grounding as to where we should go in the future. It's just my 2 cents.
all right, anything else on that? All right, so then I'd like to look at the draft community engagement ideas that Liz provided. Liz, do you want to highlight these or walk through them a little bit?
Sure. It's a lot of what we've kind of gone over, I think just from maybe small, like little differences here and there. So Town Council podcast, our council conversations series, so monthly podcast, working with Franklin TV, hosted by either the chair or rotating counselors to talk about upcoming communication subcommittee agenda items, or in general for the council to talk about agenda items, priorities, major initiatives. So in a more conversational format, so it's more of a podcast, so something like maybe with Franklin TV and talking to Steve and doing that kind of thing. I think that would be really helpful. I know when Jamie does those too, there's a few other hits on the podcast and stuff, aren't there? Or depending on which topic it's about, but.
I think I've done over 100 episodes, you said?
Just shy.
Just shy? So, they've been up and down. Some episodes get a lot, some don't. I think I've struggled since Amy left to like find the time to always do them. We've done a few, but that'll come back, I think.
I've given you the time because I know you were short too, so.
Yeah, no, it does, it did. But I think when the assistant town manager, maybe, once Sophie gets a little more acclimated, I think we should have more capacity to do a lot more of these. And,
Yeah.
But, I think former Chair Mercer, I think, did a quarterback session. But maybe the podcast isn't the best format. I don't know. Maybe it is. Or maybe consistency is the best way. I mean, that's your.
I don't know. I mean, I also think about doing like a Facebook Live or something. Because that way it's informal. People can actually ask you the questions, and you could, as one person or as the four of you could all join in and do something like that. I don't know, just to make it more accessible for residents to meet them where they are at. But obviously, for longer form conversations, I think it would be a good asset to use Franklin TV to do that. But so I'll just move on, just keep going. So posting meeting recap videos, 1 to 5 minutes, talking about what was discussed, key votes, decisions, what residents should know moving forward. Transparent agenda previews could be another series, could be just a short video from one or all of you, or even something that was written. I think these kinds of things should be more in video or in a real format, just being like, if it's a big agenda coming up or something like that, just explaining what's on the agenda, bringing more kind of promoting people to come to the meeting or encouraging people to come to the meeting, and there's something important to talk about that it's a public hearing. So you could do like previews and recaps, the council office hours with coffee with the counselors. We already kind of talked about this. It's more about doing it, outside of a formal setting. I mean, senior center, library, just kind of extending the hours, making it more available, making you more accessible and available to residents. Neighborhood listening sessions and community walks. I don't know if there's a lot of neighborhoods in this town that have community kind of forums, or if they have little, like their own meetings. I'm sure some parts of the town do, but to attend those kinds of meetings, those neighborhood topic conversations, wherever, meet them again where they are, but just, I guess, getting out into the town and talking to people. But you have been doing that, going to events, going to the grocery store because you live here, or whatever, so basically listening sessions, community walks, that kind of a thing. We could also do something like that where we invite people to come to a walk or something, and that way we're being active, and it's not just at Dunks or Starbucks or the soccer field. It's getting out and doing something. I did like also your idea about the volunteering quarterly, so I do think that's one that we should definitely add. Council and the community outreach program, having counselors again at events, which we went over. Interactive goal tracking dashboard, so tracking the priorities, strategic goals, project progress, and having it be more of like a public tracking system, having it be more of this is where we've been and this is where we're going, and either that's posting it on social media or bringing it up at the town council meeting of, publicly, so that people could see visually what's been done so far, where you've come and where we're going. I think that would be good to have kind of like a storyboard or something that's more visual. I don't know if it needs to be like as a digital thing, or if we want it just something physical and tangible that we can see.
I have something that I've worked on similar to that already.
Okay.
I can share that with you on that.
That's awesome. A council spotlight series, similar to talking about things going on in town, but instead interviewing each council member and seeing, asking them personal questions, why they serve, what, and also getting to know them. Maybe it's like get to know your counselors and having to do a little spotlight like that. That's good, and it really breaks down the barrier between you and your community members. Shows that you're able to like relate to community members, because you are. And then they are able to see your priorities and feel like they know you. And I think that's always like the best way, in my opinion, to communicate or connect with anyone, is to kind of make it some kind of relatable, something that resonates with them, that also resonates with you. So I know that you guys do well at that. Youth civic engagement program, encouraging student involvement. So youth advisory programs, mock council meetings, having like student representatives, or having them maybe come in like do a mock election or a mock vote, or just be here for a mock meeting or doing something like that. That would be cool. But really getting more youth engagement, I think would be great, kind of immersing them into the civic engagement world here, the civic public sector kind of world, and get that kind of mentality going, starting it young. And then community recognition initiative, publicly recognizing any kinds of volunteers, students, nonprofits, like you just brought up the food pantry, local businesses, or just residents making a positive impact. Doing all those kinds of things bringing it to light on your social media platforms, and then you're just opening the door and you're meeting people more and more where they're at when you connect like that, I think. So those are just some rough ideas, but mostly kind of talked about the ones that we were interested in before.
You mentioned community recognition. I know we do a lot of recognition of police and fire, people in uniform, but I didn't know if we have any like employee of the month or employee of the year recognitions.
So
that's something we've talked about.
That's something that I plan on doing for staff. I do plan on having it be, right now we're actually doing a spotlight for local businesses, for local small businesses. So we started that initiative, that's new. And I'm planning on doing something different each year. I kind of want to have something different each month for the newsletter. And one of them is spotlighting different department members in town, because they do a lot of work and they don't get any of the credit. So and they're all my coworkers and they're the best, so I want to highlight them. So that is one of my goals as the communications director. But you can help me.
I'm trying to get into the habit of new employee postings on LinkedIn. We did that for a long time. And after the cuts, when Lily's here and job we cut, we weren't able to do it. So we're trying to do those things and building them back slowly internally. But if any of these ideas strike your fancy and you want us to focus on some other things over others, I think also I would ask. We had this communication subcommittee because I think there was a problem in the community that people were talking about. And I guess I'd go back to, what do y'all think the problem is we're trying to solve, and then what are the most appropriate techniques to solve that problem? Is it misinformation, feeling like they don't know what's going on? I don't know what the problem fully is.
And I think in the past there have been certain hot topics, override development, and how that was handled, and maybe we should do a little foresight. We know some things are going to be coming up. How we can approach these things in the best way how do we communicate these things effectively, maybe might be one approach we could take.
Thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts. I think the post that was made about the position, comments, one of the things is not, I don't think it's as much misinformation as it's, if we have no money, why are we hiring all these people? Those are the kind of things that are going to start flaring up what we just went through before. I didn't agree with the budget. This isn't a budget discussion, so my personal or council viewpoint on it has nothing to do with what I'm saying. But it was the same thing we went through with the overrides. Asking for override money, we need an operational override, the pie's not big enough. We've heard this thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times over. We go into the new year, our deficit is relatively small. We just used all free cash. We just gonna hire a whole bunch of new people, and people are now waiting. They're gonna be asking for an override. You wait, because they used everything, they have no more money, they had the money, they always find the money. These were the conversations that ended, that I think Caroline and I also pointed out when we did the school committee and town council group meeting, that when everyone seems to be happy, and it's good, because we didn't give them anything out there for them to complain about yet. That's gonna be the first thing, that's gonna start blowing up. So communicating with people, yes, not everyone's gonna like every decision that's made, I get that. But at some point, we also have to look at, we're telling everyone this, we're doing this, and then we're gonna come back later and say we need this. That's where the mix-up is coming, because if you need this, then why are you doing this? Because we only have this. And I think that's the biggest, I can't do it like in specific details right now, but I think that's part of the communication problem. And sitting here, I know what happened, and no, I didn't vote for it, and I stand by my vote. But I also do understand why the ones who voted for the budget voted for the budget. Doesn't mean I agree with them, doesn't mean that I like what they did, but I do understand the principle behind it. When the residents are looking at it, they don't care about the principle behind it. All they see is, you're sitting here saying we have no money, but you just planned on hiring 6 new individuals with money that we don't have, and now you're gonna end up being short at some point, and you're gonna come back in FY '28 or '29 and say we need an override. And they're not wrong. That's the problem. They're not wrong. There's a very good chance that that could happen. There's a very good chance that it won't. Maybe the new assessors will bring in enough money, and maybe the munis person will do their thing, and everything will work out, and we might actually not get to the point where we need that override. That's my fingers crossed and my hope, that we thrive and we don't have to ask for people for more because they can't afford it. But what is happening is, this is where that is coming in. That's where the mistrust ended severely when we went for that first override. Because we were asking for 6.8 million, but we spent all of this money, and then came back the following year and said, now we need 3 point something, so we dropped it by half, and made all these cuts to bring certain things back, and said, but we don't have any money. And then this year, we basically just took everything that we had and we hired new people with it. If you wanna build trust back within the town, you gotta start really listening to the residents in the town. And my personal, not as a council person, but my personal thing, well, yeah, actually as a council person too, it was wrong to do that. As someone who sits on that side, that is counting all my pennies and trying to figure out how to survive in the state with all of the things that are going up, including for the town stuff that you have no control over, time is to put money aside. It's not just to spend it freely. And that's what they were looking for when we went into FY27 budget. That's where a lot of the residents were looking to see if we were gonna spend it all or if we were gonna put some away. And when that post went up and I saw it, I didn't touch it. I'm not even, that's the town site, I'm not even going there. But I read the comments and I'm like, here we go. So that's where our disconnect is coming from. And that is our biggest disconnect in this town. And it's all financial.
From my standpoint as a communications director, I want to be transparent about the information. So that's why the information is out there.
Yep.
I do think it is also the residents' responsibility to be informed, to inform themselves. Because if they don't choose to be informed or educated on what's going on, then they're gonna have questions and be confused as to why we're saying, it comes off as we're saying one thing and doing another. So I do think if we could only, as from my standpoint, I can only provide so much information and hope that I lead the horse to water and that they drink from it, but I can't make people read and go to the meetings. So that's my.
And I agree with you 100%, because even before I was sitting here, I was involved. I was at every meeting for 2 years. I was reading budgets, I was looking at things, I was going back and looking up. I informed myself for when I was standing up there. Yes, people do need to take some responsibility and get informed, and if they're going to complain, then they should at least take the time to be informed, so if they're gonna complain, they're being accurate in their complaints. Fully 100% agree with that. I'm just saying, if we're looking at the disconnect, that's the major disconnect that we have.
I'm gonna push back on you just a little bit because I'm not sure that is a communication subcommittee thing that we can solve. I mean, what you just described is some people in town are looking for one thing and the council did something different. That's not a communications thing, that's just the council doing
No,
something
and I
that they
agree.
don't agree with.
I agree.
So then I'm not sure that is hitting, what is our goal here?
Well, I agree with you, but Jamie was saying we have to kind of ask ourselves, what is the disconnect? And what the communication issues are. Those are them. I'm not saying, like, you putting it out there, 100% agree, it should have been posted. Because if you didn't post it, and then all of a sudden they found out, it would be like, well, why didn't we know? Why wasn't it put anywhere? So I agree that it's being put out there, I'm not arguing any of that. But that is the disconnect. So that's the area that when we're trying to base on communications, those are the areas that we have to focus on. So because those are the areas that people are gonna have problems with, that we're gonna have to be ready to answer and give those informed decisions. So we're not actually giving them something and then finding out that it's not 100% true. If that makes sense.
Sorry. So I think we've done a very good job of figuring out how do we get the message out. But I don't know if we've actually come together on what the message should be. So I think maybe it'd be important for us as a group to, first off, there's the Joint Budget Subcommittee, and they have a responsibility to do a lot of the stuff around sort of the budget and that kind of thing. And we shouldn't jump on, step on their toes. But at the same time, we also do have to have a message that we sort of get out to the public about where we stand on issues collectively as a group, as a council. And we can't do that unless we all kind of find some commonality as to what we all agree on. So I don't know, maybe there's some room to have these kind of conversations around, like, I think, maybe we might not, Jane and I might not agree on the need for an override, but we both agree that people who are struggling need help. And that the town is, hopefully taking steps to help people who need help. That's something we could agree on as a group. What are other things we could agree on as a group? We're all working, we're all listening to people, we're all trying to do the best we can for the people, the citizens of town. What are those common threads that we could all agree on, that we could message out to people, this is what we're doing?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think so we're dealing with the past, and people have a history of what the town council has done in the past, maybe what issues we've had in the past, and some things that the people haven't liked, and we haven't really told them what we stand for, and maybe what some of our core principles are, and maybe there's some core principles that we can agree on, that we can communicate to the community and say, hey, look, what, you know, and, you know, maybe if it's an override, say, well, you know, override would be, you know, asking for an override would be a last resort. I don't know, that could be one of the principles if we all agree on that, you know, it's the last thing that we look at, but at least we communicate something to folks, that they know where we stand, or that we can point to and say, this is where we stand.
But I think it's bigger than this committee.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We're not here to communicate us for. Our job as a communication subcommittee is to make sure that everything that's happening within all the other towns, boards, and committees are being communicated in a way that all residents are seeing it, whether it's the quick snippets, whether it's the posts on social media, our own, or the one that Liz handles. It's about communicating everything, to include from the budget to the EDC to transportation to all the other little things, the finance, all of that, is to make sure that everyone's getting what they need, because they're not all gonna tune into those meetings. So it's finding a neutral area where all those different areas kind of come in, and there's like a little trifecta, and you just pick, oh, finance, what they have to say. Okay, boom, there's a 10-minute snippet. Now I don't have to watch 12 hours worth of meetings. Oh, what are they doing? Is anything good happening? Oh, good, okay. It's getting everybody in one circle, in one spot, so any resident can click, and then boom, they're ready to go. Or it's on social media, so when they're scrolling, all they have to do is watch that first video, and it will fill their feeds for the rest of their lives. All right? Because I look at one little thing, and now my whole news feed has to do with dog toys, okay? So they only need to watch one video, and Facebook will fill their feed with everything town related. But that's what we have to communicate, is everything. There isn't any one specific, it's a little of all. Which means we have to be proactive with all of it. And we have to get other committees willing to step up and do those little snippets. You know, maybe somebody from the finance, after they do a finance meeting, one of them can volunteer to do the little selfie video and post it, or work with Franklin Matters or Franklin TV and get it up there. It's not about council, it's not about any one thing, it's about everything as a whole. Because nobody's watching any of it. That's why nobody knows what's going on. All they see is, this is what was done, this was what was voted on, this is what it's gonna cost us.
So I think you may have just changed the scope of this committee, because I think until now it has been council.
It's not communication subcommittee, we are a committee for the town.
But we are the council subcommittee. It is the subcommittee of the town council.
Yes.
So I'm just saying that everything we've discussed so far has been essentially town council, communicating town
Right.
council.
Right.
Topics, responsibilities, meetings, and not, let's do everything. So I think that is a scope change. That,
You would know, wouldn't you?
I mean,
She's a project manager.
Well, yes and no, and here's why, because ultimately everything
She
comes
knows
in
scope.
front of council. Correct? So finance does their thing, then they come in front of council, they present, and council has to say yay or nay. Everything eventually comes in front of council. But if we can get little snippets from everything and keep it together.
You count on me of a reason.
I think that,
yeah.
A few quick talking points. Well, first of all, town council is where the lightning likes to go. I think you know what I mean. And so being highly visible like that, you know, to Jane's point, all the issues are bubbling out in places even beyond the council. So I understand what she's saying about it's, in one sense, larger than the council. And if you can address an issue sooner than later, you know, you help to manage some of the lightning. One of the real challenges, of course, and by the way, I've heard a lot of great ideas about, and we're happy to help however we can. We can have a talk about, for instance, if we're gonna do selfies and whatnot, what can we do to help you maximize those selfies? Both for visual impact and for making it easy. How do we help to maybe remove some of the friction in the communication so it can happen, you know, with the minimum amount of effort? So I'm always up for those discussions, both in these meetings and at any point in time. And then I would also just mention, and we've talked about this in past communications discussions a few while back, one of the real challenges is finding a way to communicate to the disconnected and the uninterested. That's a challenge. And so we've talked about internet opportunities, social media and whatnot, but there are people just not there. We're not meeting them where they are. And quite frankly, where they are is kind of invisible, another big challenge. So it's about how to develop push models. You know, email's clearly a push model, which I've talked about, and other ways of being open and notorious about what you want to say. So again, I'm always available for these discussions at any time. And what can we do both in our studio and elsewhere? Well, for instance, if you want to do selfies, we can create backgrounds. 4 foot by 8 foot, we can print them up, we can make them virtual, so they can be keyed in. And the environment within which you present a message professionally also matters, because there's a secondary communication that's happening when you're speaking with authority. And these are things that we can assist with, things that are kind of unspoken, unsaid, but still carry some weight. They add to the gravitas of what it is that you're trying to convey. So again, we're here to help. I've heard a lot of good things tonight from everybody. It's in one sense, Jane, we're kind of looking to talk to the people who are almost the opposite of you. They don't have any connection. Like you said, you've been here all the time, you've engaged. You've made it a point to be a receiver of the messages, to get the information. Steve has worked hard to push out information. And by the way, we get phone calls about the radio station. Or I'll be walking through the senior center, or I'll be walking somewhere and say, hey, love that whole thing with Franklin Matters, or just what you guys are doing with the government. There are people out there who aren't listening and who are looking upon those messages favorably. So we know we're having some positive effect. And I think, you know, what we all want to do is find a way to get more out of that. So
Yeah,
that's it.
want to clap? It was a nice
Thank
close.
you. Okay, I think, I don't really know. I think we need to figure out if we are a communications hub for everything that happens in town, or just specifically the town council, because I think that is gonna change the way we move forward here.
I don't think it's about, okay, let me back up a minute. I'm not, when I say everything in town, I'm not speaking about, okay, the DPW or the Franklin Police or the fire or those areas. I'm talking about the areas in town that have to do with what the taxpayers pay for. That's finance. It affects, that's council, budgets. It's maybe giving some snippets when we know that there's a development coming up. Putting it out there, so there's no, well, I didn't get a notification, or I didn't see a notification. Making things more transparent in areas where people have said they didn't get the information, if that makes sense. So, going back before when I sat there, we've had meetings, and I was on that side, and Jamie can even agree, people have come up and said, but I didn't know about this, we didn't get the notification. And not talking about necessarily abutters, but just general people in town. Well, having things like that being put out there, if we really want to be a communication subcommittee, I think it's about communicating everything, because it really comes down to that. That's just my point of view.
I want to mention also, I feel like what it is identifying what the goal is, right? For this subcommittee, the goal is to make sure communications are getting out there, and make sure as a council too that you're doing your part in facilitating those communications, which I think boils down to a few different strategies, like boots on the ground approach, immersing yourselves in the community, going to events, being present, making those connections, And whether that is through one medium of communication or several, one vehicle or several, you're making it happen and you're trying different approaches to get people to have that two-way dialogue open, right? And have communications go back and forth and push information out and receive it, and then make sure you're making that connection with residents so that they know that they're being heard. The boots on the ground approach, and then also just, I think listening is really important of what you were saying, Jane. You're seeing on social media comments, which I agree with you that I've seen those comments too, and in my head, I think I wanna ask you guys, what else do you think, these are the strategies that I wanna work on, and what I think as this subcommittee, you wanna work on these strategies too, about boots on the ground and being there and putting out information and being forthcoming, and if you're hearing concerns about something, addressing those concerns. Those are the strategies that I think are the best strategies as a communications person. But I think what I wanna understand is what other strategies or problems have you identified, or maybe not problems, goals that you identified that you wanna work on as a subcommittee?
So I think, couple thoughts. First off, it's not possible to anticipate every single objection that the community could possibly have against anything. It's just not possible. But I do think, there might be some things you could prioritize, like, well, this probably might ruffle a few feathers. Maybe I should be more transparent about this or that. But yeah, do everything, maybe not. But the other thing is that the planning board and the ZBA are they have their own authority, and the planning board is an elected body. So maybe, instead of maybe us having jurisdiction, maybe Liz, you could work with planning, the planning department, the planning board, the ZBA, so that we might not have oversight of this, but maybe you can get sort of the, be aware and put the spotlight on things that might ruffle some feathers, to make sure that it doesn't ruffle feathers in terms of, projects that are coming up or something like that. I do think that a lot of these projects, the planning happens years ahead of time, and people don't realize, they just see something built now, well, how did this get through? Well, this was decided, 2-3 years ago. No one knew about it, or people weren't paying attention because they just, they have other things to do, they have busy lives. So I think that being able to communicate things early, but also, I don't think you're going to be able to get every situation where people are going to be upset, because some of these things take time, and you might have to think about how you process it. But I think a lot of this stuff, we talk about overrides, we talk about development. I think those are the two not third rails, but things that ruffle people's feathers, and being able to identify those things ahead of time and smooth things over might be helpful.
Through Madam Chair, real quick. A couple things we could do, like for example, if you look at our Instagram and Twitter feeds, Liz is back in there posting every agenda. I think one thing that I'll ask her to do is maybe just do a one-page sheet, PDF and some links, how to connect with the town of Franklin. And I think one of the best things that all of you can do is try to encourage people to connect to town and school resources. Number one, I'll give a couple examples. I remember a couple years ago, one of the budget hearings, people complained that they had no idea where the school budget was, and there was a lot of talk about it. And I vividly remember Councilor Hellen getting frustrated and went on her own, just went to the school website, went to budget, went to like FY25, whatever year it was, and there was like a line item budget. And she said it in a public meeting. And I think some of the connection issues is just to your point. People are so busy, they're completely frazzled. Example right now, King Street, gotten a lot of calls. I never knew about this. How come this is going on? Why are they building in the river, right? And people but the project was approved 3 years ago during a bazillion public hearings, right? Why did people not know about that, right? Maybe that direct neighborhood knew, like that street, but maybe other people didn't. And I think connecting people to the planning board page where all the site plans are for that project and all the other details. To your point, Councilman Morrongiello, none of you are going to learn all of this stuff to a point where you're going to be able to go talk to everybody about everything. It's just not reasonable. But financial affairs, I was asked last year, put out a list of what's going to get cut. I put out a list of exactly what was gonna get cut. I have still yet to meet a citizen in this town who read that packet and knew that the nurse was getting laid off, cops were getting laid off, cuts to schools. There was a gap between the information online that we had been asked to post and that we put up there, and then people still at the senior center had no idea that the nurse was gonna get cut, even though that was the second year that the part-time nurse was possibly on the chopping block. I think some of the connection is just that people are busy, they don't care until they care, they might see something online. And there has been a gap between what is posted online, and I would say, and I don't wanna speak for them, but I speak to the schools often, I think the schools have sometimes had the same issue, where it's all there, we're all having listening sessions, they're all in the packets, it's all in the agendas, and somewhere it just doesn't get to residents. And I think we have email subscription lists for all town council meeting agendas, we have email subscription lists for legal notices.
Everything.
We have, some
We have
guys,
too many
actually some guy just
categories.
emailed us the other day and complained that we have too many email lists, that he wanted everything. He actually did, right? He said,
Yeah.
I wanna get
He wants-
everything.
yeah. I'm like, what do you
But he
got
didn't
for
wanna
me
sign
now?
up for 10 lists. It was really funny. He goes, can't you just send one list? And here we are, to your point, Max.
Yeah.
The regroup messages. We sent out a lot of regroup messages 8 years ago. We got suggestions to send out more regroup, and then people complained that we sent out too many messages.
Yeah.
School parents complain all the time about the amount of stuff that the schools send out, but I also have been on the other side when people complained the schools weren't telling them what was going on. So we're damned if you do, we're damned if you don't.
No happy medium.
But at the end of the day, I think your best job on connection, and this is the fiscal issue, instead of your opinion maybe, have them connect them to the information yourself so that they can review the information and they know that it's there. I think there's some sort of issue where we're not connecting people to the resources that exist. We have every social media channel on earth. We've got LinkedIn, we've got YouTube, we've got Franklin TV, we've got Franklin Town Hall TV. I understand the 3-hour meetings, but I think our job is just to get people to the information and let them decide how they feel about this stuff. When you say fiscal affairs, Councilor Callaway-Tripp, I agree, but with all due respect, it's all there. And it's all there. I can't possibly produce anything more to help people tell the story that has existed for 20 years. And every couple of years I try to do it a different way. People still just seem to say, I don't know what's going on in financial affairs. Listening sessions didn't really fully work. Some people came out, but it didn't make people feel like they really knew what was going on. So we spent 19 meetings over a year going out, took all that time away from our family, produced all this material, it still didn't really fully work. So I go back to maybe what we need to do as a staff is try to figure out a really synthesized one-stop shop page, whether it's a flyer, or PDF, or an electronic communication. How to connect with the town of Franklin and the Franklin Public Schools. What are our social media channels? That's where all the agendas are posted.
It's
We
all
post
on the
all the
website.
agendas, we post all the topics.
There is a
I
webpage.
venture to find another town where you can find a more comprehensive agenda than the Franklin Town Council. The packets we put out have all the information in them. They have details, they have charts. I mean, there's only so much we can do. And sometimes I wonder, and maybe it's just because of my length of time here, but I feel like sometimes we're dogs chasing our tails trying to figure something out. And I don't know if we're ever gonna make people feel like they fully know what was going on all the time, because it's just kind of the way the world works these days. So I appreciate the few minutes, and that's a few thoughts that I have. But I think we could maybe work with the planning board and ZBA. We used to post their agendas on social media. Maybe we can do that just so that people feel like they know what's coming up with planning board and ZBA. We used to post all those, but at some point, there becomes a responsibility for residents.
Yes.
With all due respect,
Yes.
to check in. I've heard everything about how nobody could find the Stobart's plans online, and they were right there. I've heard about flock cameras. We have a policy in the dashboard right there. We have tons of issues. It's all right on the website, but we're not really going there first to try to look for things. We're saying everything's missing, but it's really not, there's not a lot missing. Steve? You look like
Just waiting respectfully for
Yeah.
time.
Okay,
Ted.
I'm done. I'm sorry, I'm done.
So it's like Jamie said multiple times, we post all the agendas, but then you also said you haven't been posting the planning boards, and that was one of my pieces. There are notifications, and there's also a problem with the notification system whereby as many notifications as there are for agendas, meetings, calendar items, if you go through, and trust me, I have 2 accounts, I go there periodically, because if something gets added, like the communications committee in particular, if that committee got added as a notification, but I had gone in the week before and it wasn't there, I couldn't sign up for it. Then it gets added, it does not automatically populate to my accounts because I have to take that action. So I have to periodically go to that notification page, notify me, and make sure that, at least from my perspective, and I'm doing the reporting for me, Franklin Matters, I have to make sure I'm checked on every single box. And every week I go in there, there's a new box. So if I want that notification, I have to go in there and check it. Because there's no notification that actually says, oh, by the way, there's now a new notification.
Steve,
We don't need to go that far, but.
what boxes can you, what boxes are new? I'm genuinely, I don't know.
So let me be clear, so I go in periodically with the change, particularly from the council's point, with the new communications committee, they were not there. As I went in, there were also some others. So I can go back into my email and show you the ones that were added the last time. I haven't gone in yet. I'm willing to bet, since it's been about 6 or 8 weeks, there's gonna be some new ones in there, which just got added and now I'll have to subscribe to.
Interesting.
So that's one piece. It would be nice to have checked me for everything and then I don't have to worry about it at all. But
I'll
on
look
the other
into it. I'll
hand,
talk to Civic Plus.
but on the other hand, if somebody only wants council or only wants a ZBA, you have that capability. You don't have to get everything. I know I'm unique. I know that. That's my choice. I'm making that, to go to approximately 100 meetings a year to do that. That's my choice. So I appreciate the notifications. The piece that has changed for the better is you could get a notification about an agenda being added, meeting being added, but then if the meeting get canceled, you didn't get notified. That now has changed. Planning board meeting for July 27th, there was a modification that came in actually while we were sitting here, that the planning board meeting is being canceled for July 27th. Cool, now we know that. And the notification is there, because if you got the first notification, then you just went on the 27th and all of a sudden council chambers is empty. Why? There was supposed to be a meeting. No. So I think, getting back to the original piece in terms of stepping up, much I agree with in terms of, if you will, the scope change. And I think some of the issue, if you will, respectfully, in terms of that's a scope change, but respectfully, yes, generally, from a dollar perspective, you're the be-all and end-all. You do the vote to approve the entire budget. You do the vote to hire Jamie, and then he does all the rest. You have the one line item that gives the school committee, and then they do all the rest there. So in terms of your scope, the town is you. You don't have to do everything in terms of every single detail. I pick and choose. I think what your committee needs to do is focus on the process piece, a la Liz, guiding her, because she's gonna be now the hands on the ground for a bunch of the stuff, and then she can coordinate with the individual departments. DPW is very active, Recreation's active, etc. Health department has now added a Facebook page. That's an issue, but that's a benefit. So on the one hand, your scope is big, but if you focus on the process piece, your work is not gonna be bigger than the scope, because the people are gonna be able to do the work. And better tick and tie, so that your point in terms of the disconnects, if something happens, and then this happens, and then somebody says, oh, well, what happened? If that trail is not tied together, that's why people are left in the dark. We need collectively to do better on tying those together, to explain, if this is happening sometime in a planning board situation, I think,
Must have been a disconnect, because I wish I posted that on the website. Or I wish I posted it on social media, rather.
I'm just, I mean, you're new into the role, so we think, and I know Jamie enough, Jamie's thankful that you're here and helping us do stuff, so absolutely. And respectfully, that, because you weren't here, that's where some of the gaps in some of the communication was, because Jamie didn't have the people that he did have to do some stuff. That's behind us. Now we need to build the process. So in that ideal world, what's that process look like? That's where you can add some value. In your listening, in your meetings with people at the farmer's market, council meetings, council office hours, how do you want the information? What information do you want in what format? There's many ways to get it delivered. Text, email, video, how do you get notified? Which items do you want? Do you want all the planning board? Do you want, so perhaps at some point you could collectively do like, and from my point of view, when I started, I was following the budget. School committee, town council, FinCom, and then the subcommittees for those. There's another path that I can't cover. I just don't have the hours from the day to do so. Planning board, design review, Concom, kind of that build side. I'll tap in individually if that's where the big discussions are, just to be aware. But that's another whole resource piece, to get into the recording, to get into that information. There's not as much communications there. And I mentioned it to somebody, but I'm not sure, Jamie, in the budget narrative, design review committee, because they don't have a budget, was the only, quote, department and/or board that wasn't in the budget narrative. And I understand how it happened, because there's no budget line item for them. It's buried underneath the planning and communications. But when the design review opportunity in terms of committee members needed, I went to the narrative saying, that's the most current info. There's nothing there. You gotta go back to the annual report where that design review piece has that piece. So those are some of those little disconnects that are along the way, but to the extent that what they do produce, we can do a better job sharing and giving the piecemeal, even if it's just a little snippet. Want more on this? Go here. Want more on this? Go here. There's a heck of a lot of info. Excuse me. And when Jamie first came in and we first met, Jamie said, what I want to do may put you out of work. And I said, don't ever think that, because if you do what you need to do, I can do other things, because I was spending an awful lot of time doing the agenda sharing, doing the meeting notifications, because the town wasn't doing that. Now they are. Now we need to get to that next level. Are we getting it to the right people? Jamie mentioned, and I think Pete mentioned, that the people that truly we need to get to are not involved. And it's not just a Franklin problem. National survey, and I forget exactly the source, but I shared it.
It's an everyone problem.
80% of the US population does not follow local government.
And they're the first to say, why wasn't I told?
Right? Now, we can consider ourselves pretty good because, oh, by the way, the other side of that, that's the 20% turnout we get for a local election every 2 years. And we do better than that when we get an override, because that's the 40 to 45% turnout we get. So we're getting twice, because now it's a dollar thing, right? In the average, 60%, we'll see that turnout in, not so much in September, but in November, because it's a state election. And then every 4 years, we get an average 80% turnout for a presidential election. Those other two elections, the significant difference between those and the local and the override, dollars, ad dollars. And we don't have budget to do normal stuff never mind get into that kind of ads. So we need to figure out how, with no money, and the only way we're truly gonna do that is personal relationships, personal conversations. That's gonna take time. Because we can reach the people at the schools through the school children, families, etc. Youth sports, that's a known population, you can reach those. Maybe there's not one particular way, but there's multiple ways, because that's a defined community. For the seniors, you've got a defined community there, you can get to them. It's that, and it's an old term, double income, no kids. Unless they have to do something with the town, or unless the plow doesn't come by, or their trash doesn't get picked up, there's no interaction with us, the town. How do we get to them? That's the silent majority. Nobody has an answer for that, other than an individual, one at a time, making a conversation, and then getting somebody incentivized to take the next step and become engaged. So I've elaborated a little bit more than I wanted to, but back to the point in terms of, I think your role, yes, is broad, but if you focus on the process, you're an oversight board. You don't have to do it all. It may take more than Liz. That's going to be another part of the financial discussion. But in the meantime, guiding and understanding better of what the process of our existing communication and making sure that it works for the people. And that's where you can get to coming back in terms of the, do the alerts work? As many as we have, does it work? How many of the email notifications do we have? How much of a population perspective is that? Is it 5%? 10%? It's not 90%. There's an opportunity. Thank you for your time.
I know we lost Liz, but maybe to Jamie. But I just two things. One is we advertise the Charter Review Commission a little bit more, just because we're gonna have a meeting. I know we had to cancel it, but a lot of people who were very interested in it just weren't aware of it.
Sure.
The second thing was whether we were talking about the planning board and sort of the projects that come before them. Could we do like an imagery or like some graphics or something for like Facebook, for social media, that is like what's going to come online in the next 2 years that people should be aware of, just so they don't freak out when it happens.
Well, a good example of that is the Depot Plaza proposal, right? Like, I mean, it's out there, I know people know about it. You know, I think posting the planning board agendas is one piece that we can try to get back to. I mean, I agree with Steve, we used to do all of them, or at least the big committees, and obviously we're gonna try to ask Liz to get that back, but, you know, part of the issue is you don't know what comes in until it comes in. I mean, we've been hearing about Depot Plaza since I've been here.
I mean, things that have already been approved that are probably going to be built.
Well, here's a good example, like, the planning board, I'm just gonna say, if you go to the planning department website, planning board website, they have projects, 2022, 23, 24, 25, 26. They have approved and proposed. And this is, I think, back to the point I made a minute ago, like, you know, we need to link people up with that information. I think creating new graphics and imagery we may be able to do, then that's a stress on the system with a low staff bandwidth, where we're now trying to, again, I feel almost desperate, begging people to like want to come engage with us. And the truth is, they don't really get involved until there's something either in their backyard, or they're coming off the interstate and they see trees down, or something's built, and then they see it and they don't like it. And I will say though, and I think you guys would agree, when there is something proposed and there are public hearings, people do fill the rooms. So the people that are interested do know what's going on. You know, and I think sometimes it's just, I remember vividly during the Stovart's hearings, there was somebody that was really upset that they couldn't find the materials. And Janelle Lang very politely and calmly said, that information is online. And if you go to the Zoning Board of Appeals site, and she walked the individual through the 3 links that she needed to get to the packet of information that she was looking for. The person was just kept saying, there's nothing available, we don't have anything, no one knows anything. No one knows where the materials are. We don't have any materials. There's no transparency. But how do you walk that person back from saying there's no transparency, nothing's online, we don't have the information, but it was right there? I mean, I think somewhere with development, and I'm being authentic with this, I think that's where the gap is. I mean, you just kind of spoke to it, Jane. I mean, there's just this gap where we need to assure people. I think this is a difficult responsibility for maybe many of you and maybe other counselors or other elected officials. We have to assure people the information is there. And, you know, are we 100% accurate all the time? Of course not. There are still some notification issues we could do better. But I think in terms of the planning board, the ZBA, and conservation, we'll certainly work with them. I know they're coming to the EDC in September to do a workshop. We just went through this with a staff meeting today to talk about their websites and how they provide information. We're going to work with those departments. I know Liz is going to go down and talk with them, and we'll do the best we can to try to make sure people are aware, either through social media or news posts, maybe the newsletter. You know, depot plot for interested residents downtown, 9 to 15 Main Street is going to have its public hearing on August whatever for Depot Plaza. You know, and we can try to help get the information, you know, out there. But counselors are also the eyes and ears of the community. You're the ones that are hearing things from people, and that's why I asked the question earlier: what problem are we trying to solve here? And I think many of you have spoken to, like, there's a disconnect somewhere. But I think it's incumbent upon hopefully all of you, and maybe you agree, maybe you won't, that all of you have to help us like get, you know, assure people the information's there. You know, they don't have to, you know, again, this is like kind of around the flock camera issue and a bunch of other issues. The information's online, it's right on the, it's been there for 4 years. And I think trying to assure people the information is there and trying to connect people to the information or connect people to the department or the staff, I think that's what makes people feel more connected. And maybe these are easier things than what Liz's list was. Maybe these are things we need to focus on a little bit more, because maybe that'll make people feel more direct, more efficient, quicker. Because I think we all agree, people just want what they want when they want it. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is, right? They're just too busy. And people just want what they want when they want it. And I think all of you are genuinely there trying to do that. I think we are too. And I think we just need to try to do the best job we can to try and connect people to that.
Yeah, and it's, again, it really does come back to when there's something, for example, when I see something that I want to learn more about, don't you go and research it? Don't you go and look it up? Don't you go to what would you think would be the main source of information, which would be the town website, which is the official trusted source of information? I would start there first, and then I'd look and I'd research. Maybe it's my news background of the journalist in me, but that's what I would do, is go find the information. If I cannot find the information, then I'd call someone, I'd email someone, I'd contact someone. I'd reach out to one of you that I know in the community and be like, oh, they're a town councilor, I'll reach out to them. They must have the answer. And then if not, you'd find the answer because you'd connect them to Jamie or a department head or whoever it is that would have, or you'd be able to answer that question. But I think it does come down to, like Jamie's saying, it is almost impossible to do more. I mean, we're trying to do more, and I want to do more. And it is about revamping or cleaning out the website and making it easier to navigate, and making sure links are up to date, and talking to department heads and saying, we need to make sure that all the relevant information about this is linked to this page, whatever it may be. But the information is there, and it is a layered approach of, we're sharing the information, you're sharing the information, we're holding these sessions, you're gonna go talk to collaborate with Franklin TV. We'll put it out to the local media if there's something going on, or larger if it's something bigger than that. But I do think it is a kind of a push-pull approach where we need to all, like Steve said, like Jamie said, like Jane said, of the approach of we'll all work together to collaboratively get the information out, right?
I just want to say something. There might be an answer that's coming to this problem, because or you can do this, which is, the fact that you have everything out on the website is great. Now you can just go to like Google and say, tell me everything about flock cameras in
Right.
Franklin, and AI will give you the answer.
Okay, well-
Because- yeah, because it's right here. Because it's just going through, reading the Franklin site. So if we have an issue of people knowing where to go on the site, that issue's going away, because AI is just gonna search it for you and bring it back to you. Yeah, just go to Google and Gemini will tell you.
It comes down
I
to
just
the
did it,
people.
I mean, that was like, I didn't realize that was
Mhm.
that happened, but yeah, you're right.
It comes down to people not taking that step though, and that is a responsibility to some extent for residents. If they care about what's going on and they wanna learn more, the information is there, and we can only do so much that we can do to pay attention. It's right here, or point them in the direction of wherever it is.
No,
Yeah.
geez, I was thinking, because I probably was thinking, you can add AI bot to the website and have it search for you, but then I was thinking, wait, Gemini probably can just do that already. And it does.
It does.
Probably has trouble searching PDFs though.
What's that?
It might have trouble searching PDFs.
Yes.
Yeah, it may. I mean, it's pretty good though. I mean,
It's pretty good.
you know, Joanne Jane knows all this information, so.
I'm gonna pull us back to, just to answer Jamie's question about what goals are, the problems that we're trying to solve. I think in this conversation, what I've heard is, pointing to the info that already exists, right? We don't need to create it, we don't need to synthesize it, we just need to point to it. Getting more into the public, to create more opportunities to speak to and hear from residents. Explaining processes concisely and accessibly in a timely manner, and getting ahead of thorny issues, or that we see coming up and addressing them before we get to the point where people say, I didn't know this was happening, or I don't understand this. I know one of the things we had said originally when we first started was addressing misinformation. I don't know if this is still an issue right now. I'm not seeing, and it could be that is a cyclical thing. I'm
I
not
don't
seeing
think
a lot of
it's an
different-
issue right now. I think because there's not, I think for right now, it's not as big of an issue as it was before, because right now it's just a matter of getting out the information. I think, I'm gonna put honestly, I think after the last election when we all got elected, I think everything prior to that, everyone was so done and tired and fed up, and the fighting that was going on, they kinda just went boom, done, new council, we're walking away, we're all gonna breathe and live our lives, stay in our happy little bubbles and watch and see what happens. Well, now we're being watched, now they're waiting to see what happens, so it's from the information from this point forward, making sure that it's accurate and they have access to it. I'm not saying there'll be a misinformation issue at some point, but right now I don't think I think it's more just getting the information out.
Do we wanna have a consistent message that, on things we can agree on? Is there any power to that, or is it better to just sort of do our own things in terms of we lead individually?
I think if we're talking about something that's happened during a meeting, it has to be consistent, because, for example, you don't wanna go on and say something about a meeting or something that happened, and then I'm saying something different, because then clearly something got missed. So making sure if it's about something that was spoken to or being done within the town has to be accurate. If somebody is asking you specifically what you think and feel, as long as you let them know that you're speaking as yourself and not as a member of council, you're free to give your opinion. And it doesn't have to match everybody else's. And I think that's where the difference has to come in. Because if we were talking about something and you said, well, this happened, and I'm like, oh, this happened, but there was a piece in the middle, that's when it's gonna say, well, we didn't get all the information because you only said this, and Jane, you only said that, and there's this whole chunk that nobody said anything about. So if it's a recap on something, I think it has to be sure that it's accurate of what happened during those meetings, if we're talking about the council meetings and stuff like that. But if someone's just asking you an opinion.
Well, let me reframe it. You know, we have a mouthpiece through Jamie and the communications director, Liz. if we all organize our thoughts together and we all agree on something, we use the mouthpiece of the town to state our official position as a council.
Is that not what we do?
I mean, it is, but we don't use it for messaging. We use it for, maybe we might have a resolution we pass. We might have a resolution we pass, but, you know, we have these contentious votes. If we don't have, we're not on the same page as the town, we can't really use that mouthpiece.
I mean, I feel like that's what we do in the discussion of those votes, right? Like, we all kind of say the thing, and I feel like there's rarely a time where there's a contentious vote where we all vote the same way, and we don't, and we might even vote the same way, but for different reasons too. So I don't know that that's, I would think that if we're putting something out, it is more about factual information rather than like, you know, hey, here's our collective perspective. Because also that can change, right? People can change their opinions and their minds on things. But
I think you had a good list, Caroline, of what the consensus was.
okay. All right, so then I think then we should keep those in mind, and I can also like email it out too of what I think I heard on, if you guys have any other ideas, we can put it in. But then we should say, okay, if those are our goals, if those are the problems we're trying to solve, then we should be looking at these initiatives and ways to, yeah, exactly, that will meet those goals or, you know, tackle those problems. So a lot of those things, you know, a lot of things we've talked about will, right? So if we do the minute, you know, explainer videos, that'll do some of these. Extra office hours, that'll be one. Even the community recognition initiative, I really like, but that's another, you know, meeting the public, meeting the residents kind of, you know, where they are. And so I think if we're focusing on those, then we'll be able to kind of go through the list of initiatives or suggestions and make sure that, you know, we're tackling the things that we think are solving those problems.
Just so people are aware, as a counselor, any counselor could, you know, the chairman has to sign it, but could give a proclamation to anyone in the community who they think is, you know, entitled to one. So that's a tool available to any counselor in terms of representatives.
That's a good point. Thank you for bringing our attention to that too. And also some of these other things that people can also do, you know, on their own too, right? So if we talk about, you know, getting out. I know Councilor LeBlanc mentioned that he was gonna try to make a point of going to coffee shops. I know he brought up one, I don't know if he's done more, but like that's something again that people can do individually as well. So, you know, while we do these, there are other things that counselors may choose to do individually as well. All right, I think that was our last topic on the agenda. So we're almost like 2.5 hours. I don't know if you guys, I think that we've done a big discussion here. Do we have anything else that we need to bring up before we close?
No, but I do have one question for Franklin TV. The people who watch YouTube, you can tell how many times it's been viewed.
There are analytics, yes.
Okay, what about the people who watch it off of like Comcast or Verizon? Do
No
you have any
analytics.
way of knowing how
No.
many people might be watching that?
There is the survey, the community, American Community, what's the name of the survey? The national survey? National Community Survey, and that has a representative sample of, and they ask specifically who gets their news from Franklin TV. So that might be your best bet if you wanna.
Well, I was just curious because going forward, not everyone Zooms, not everyone shows up, not everyone likes YouTube. But if we could tell somehow, well, we only had 50 people watching it on Comcast and Verizon, but you know what, a year later, we're at 150. Like, just to see if we're drawing in more people to watch it versus doing it the other way. And I didn't know if you had a way of tracking that or if it's because it's cable you don't.
The difficulty with cable, the honest difficulty with cable, as far as the cable carriers are concerned, we are baggage. We are a legal obligation that dents their profit margin. That's the way they view us. They struggle, they don't want to give us a high definition channel, they don't want to do this, they don't want to put us in the program guide. That would be useful. getting analytics from them is difficult at best. To Max's point, there are independent parties that try to understand what's going on with the various channels and whatnot, but again, it's sporadic. I wish we could do more with respect to what it is that we're actually accomplishing on the channels. And then one of the other elements, of course, is that when you're watching on cable, you're watching a standard definition picture, which is squoze inside of a high definition frame. So the quality tends not to be that great. YouTube is a much better watch. And I think, by the way, the feedback I get on that is we'd really rather watch on YouTube. Looks a lot better, yada, yada, yada. So that's sort of where we are.
Watch
Wish
it
I had
at
a
your own
better
time,
answer.
too.
Sorry?
So you can watch it at your own time.
Yeah, well, that too. But, you know, for those who want to participate live, we do pay a lot of attention to making sure that our YouTube channels, you know, clean, bright, active, and what people are experiencing on Zoom is identical to what's going on YouTube. So they're both getting basically the same experience in high def, and it's something where we feel like we've got a little more control over the quality and of the proceedings and the presentation. Anyway, wish we had a better answer on the cable side.
No, your answer was fine. I honestly, I just wasn't sure.
No,
And
you
I was
asked the
just
right
wondering if
question.
it was something that
Yeah.
we did track or we don't have the ability to.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have the ability to because Kate is right.
And how I wish you and I once again want the same.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? All right, then I'm gonna pull Max's move here, and seeing no further business, no further business,
Yeah,
Jamie,
take a
Liz?
motion.
Yeah.
No, I don't have to,
No,
you
Max
can
just
just-
explained this. I can just say, seeing no further new business,
Meeting is adjourned.
thank you, meeting is adjourned.
We are now producing this in collaboration with Franklin TV and Franklin Public Radio. This podcast is my public service effort for Franklin, but we can't do it alone. We can always use your help. How can you help? If you can use the information that you find here, please tell your friends and neighbors. If you don't like something here, please let me know. Through this feedback loop, we can continue to make improvements. And I thank you for listening. For additional information, please visit franklinmatters.org. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me directly at suresteve@gmail.com. The music for the intro and exit was provided by Michael Clark and the group East of Shirley. The piece is titled Ernesto Mañana, copyright Michael Clark and Tintype Tunes in 2008, and used with their permission. I hope you enjoy. And by the way, you can also subscribe and listen to Franklin Matters Radio on your favorite podcast app. Search in podcasts for Franklin Matters.